What's that for? Oh, computer. Okay, hello friends. Let me do what I need to do at the top of every office hour, which is, can somebody, if there is anybody in this room right now, and there could be no one because, it's just me. But if there is anybody in this chat room right now, could you give me a confirmation that you can both see me and hear me before I start ranting and raging on this online office hour? So give me a shout out if you could be so kind to let me know that anybody is here and that this stuff is working here on the old Plaid Avenger Twitch channel. Oh, and I've already got some chatters, and they're all first-time chatters of that. Awesome. First-time chatter from Kiernampick says, can hear and see you. I'm going to just call you Kier. Thank you, first-time chatter, Kier. First-time chatter from The Hot One. Ooh, good screen name. The Hot One. Who says, yes, sir. Thank you for your first-time chatter. First-time chatter from DH Victoria says, hi, yes, we can. J Mar back in the hizzle. J Mar 3806 saying everything is working just fine. First-time chatter from Halvine, or Halvine. Maybe you're in the wine class, saying hello. Thank you for your first-time chat. First-time chat from Tossed Crotch. That's a good name. Tossed Crotch saying hello. Welcome back, Nick S3874 saying hello. First-time chatter, Spam Z saying hi, Professor. Good screen name. First-time chatter from Laney Jopel saying hello. First-time chatter from Double Aught Fen HQ saying hi. First-time chatter, this is Bora. Welcome, Bora, saying hello, Professor. And a first-time chatter from a Chinese character name that I cannot read nor pronounce. Oh, wait a minute. Is that Chinese or Korean? The person that just chatted, is that Chinese or Korean? I think it says Chill saying good morning. Wow. I'm curious. It is Korean. Boom, called it. So when you get as cool as I am, which is easy because you all are already cooler than I am, you'll be able to tell Chinese script from Korean script from Japanese script. It's something about that first character. It's something about the roundness. The Korean script has a roundness that the other two quite don't have, even though I can't read any of it. Mr. Piggy Pork Chop back in the house saying hello. That's a hilarious screen name, dude. Howleen says, hey, Mr. Piggy Pork Chop, so that people know each other. I got another first-time chatter from Mally Go SFTW saying hello. First-time chatter from Happy Hawaiian. There's a good screen name. Happy Hawaiian saying, howdy, may the vino be with you. Wow. Thank you. That is, what a great greeting. What a great blessing for people. May the vino be with you. May the love of vino be with you. Let's see. First-time chatter from one of 15 Elvises. Ooh, that's an interesting screen name. I kind of want to know more. One of 15 Elvises. Double Aught Fin HQ says, love your class so much, you're kind of cooked. Cooked? Is that a good thing, a bad thing? Because I would agree, I probably am cooked. JBar3806, my boyfriend says hi too. He loves your lecture videos and he watches them with me. Hello, boyfriend of JMar3806. I love both of you. Halvine says, I'm transferring to Virginia Tech just to take your class.
I hope you're taking it right now, because that's it.
You better hurry up and take it right now, because I'm either being fired or being retired this semester, so this is it. You better make that transfer catch on fire and get your ass here to take the last classes from John Boyer here at Virginia Tech. Well, welcome all of you. Thank you all so much. So many first-time chatters, and there's another one, first-time chatter from Dale McCormick, saying my friend loves the wine lab. Well, thank you, friend of Dale McCormick. And JMR Manolo says hi. Welcome back, JM. You are a frequent flyer here on the office hours. So what we're going to do tonight, well, besides getting cooked, is to answer any questions you all have about what's going on in classes. And now, with so much great input and so many of you, especially first-time chatters, jumping in here for the online office hour, I got to think maybe we're moving the online office hour to Monday nights, because this is a ton of people who are jumping in real quick and being super active. So let's do Monday nights from now on. But we're also going to do perhaps another office hour tomorrow. Actually, it's going to be an official podcast. So there's office hours, and then I'm going to start doing podcasts, even though I've never done them. I'm really not even sure what the hell the difference is. I'm not really sure what constitutes a podcast, besides, I guess, somebody getting online and spouting nonsense about whatever. So online office hours we're doing right now, and this is mostly because it's the beginning of the semester. Oh, I'm sorry, let me back up. For those of you that don't know who I am, for those of you that are just surfing around Twitch and taking a break from watching people play video games, and you tuned into this and you're like, what the hell is this guy doing? I am not going to play a video game. I am a video game. I am literally a video game. Somebody has a joystick connected to my brain right now. So what this is the online live office hours for World Regional Geography, aka World Regions, and the Geography of Wine class here at Virginia Tech, home of the Fighting Hokies, the greatest institute this side of the Mississippi, or on planet Earth, whichever one you want to choose. And so, during the online office hours, I'm here mostly, if not exclusively, to answer questions you may have about the courses that are happening this semester. And to reiterate, these are the last times I'm teaching these courses at Virginia Tech. You good people are in the last iteration of John Boyer's taught World Regions and John Boyer's Geography of Wine class. I'm sure some wildly average adequate people will be teaching these classes this time next year. But they won't be doing this shit. So I'm glad you're here for my last round of a 27-year run here at Virginia Tech. We're going to have some fun if I survive this semester, which seems unlikely because there's a couple people who are desperately trying to fire me in the middle of the semester. What do you all think about that, by the way? What would you think about me being fired in the next month and somebody else taking over this class? I'm just wondering. I kind of think it's humorous, comical even. Keystone Cops would be another appropriate adjective, but you guys are too young to know what that is. So let me go back to the chat room real quick, and then we'll get to your questions. Again, I'm here mostly to answer questions about how the class is operating, what's going on, how the quizzing works, how this works, how blogs work. So we can talk about any of that stuff. And we can also talk about current events, or I can answer wine questions because this is a joint office hour for both classes. So I can answer questions about anything. And then tomorrow, if not tomorrow, Wednesday, no, it's going to have to be tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to do a separate podcast just on Greenland, if any of you are interested in that. Okay, to the chat room, Robin. In the chat room I see, pardon me, I just finished dinner. Let's see, Mr. Mr. Manolo says, maybe Havoline will be the first student in the independent courses. Yes, the independent courses online will be happening. And Havoline says, what is the independent course? Well, once I finish teaching this semester, and perhaps even before I finish teaching, we're going to start teaching courses online just to people on planet Earth. So if you're at Virginia Tech and you want to take more classes from me, that's fine. You can do it online, but you won't get Virginia Tech credit for them. I just want to start spreading the gospel about wine and spreading the gospel about international relations and understanding the world to the greater audience of planet Earth. And my awesome friends and family and relations and Katie, who's been my longtime number one partner and companion on all things in life, has for over a decade been begging me to go completely online and do a podcast and be an influencer and do all this other stuff. and just to teach classes online to anybody on planet Earth. And I've been pretty lazy. I'm like, well, no, but I like working in Virginia Tech and I'm teaching students here, so whatever, I'll just keep doing this. But now that I'm getting kicked off the curb, thrown under the bus, so to speak, it occurs to me that, well, I really like teaching and I really do like people to understand more about the world. And I really am passionate about people understanding wine and the philosophy of wine and the language of wine, because knowing about the world and knowing about wine and fine dining and international relations and being a world traveler, all of these things together are what I will be influencing people to do. And not even to do, but I'm passionate about all these things. I'm passionate about living well, treating other people well, going around the world and seeing how the world works and understanding how the world works so that you're a better human being and can better interact with the world and perhaps make the world a better place. At the end of the day, this sounds blasé, and perhaps even sounds, I don't know, juvenile or ignorant or childish. But in my world, if I'm going to be an influencer, here's what I'm influencing. Try to make the world a better place when you leave than when you came into it. That's all I'm here to do. I love the world. I love the peoples of the world. I love humans. I love different cultures. I love the different cultures everywhere on planet Earth. I think that humans inherently are good, and I want to make the world a better place in whatever small incremental way that I can, and I want to encourage other people to do that. And I say that sounds almost childish in today's world because we're currently living through an era of bizarre selfishness, bizarre greed, bizarre levels of wealth disparity, and a kind of, especially in America, an attitude of screw everybody, make as much money as you can, and that's just not my philosophy. So that's why I figured I would never be a good influencer, because I'm much more like Mr. Rogers than I am Warren Buffett. I'm like, it's wealth is fine, but what do you want it for? What do you want to do with it? What do you want your legacy to be? Is it just I got as much as I could? Because that's not much of a legacy. But now I'm waxing poetic, which is what I do here on the online office hours. And now I've gotten way behind on the chat room during my rant. But I would love your opinions on, could I make it as an influencer? Because I still find the word distasteful, honestly, friends. I always encourage people, I've been doing this again almost 3 decades, I'm encouraging you young people to think for yourselves and do things for yourselves and go experience things for yourselves. So when I think of influencers, I think of people who are trying to make other people think like them and or buy products from them. And I don't really do either of those things. I'm much more of an influencer of, I want to influence you to live better and live more fully and go out and see the world and help people. Not so much help people like go volunteer for a charity, but like have an attitude of life. I want to be a life influencer of attitude of like, the world is good, people are good, you should do as much good as you can in the world to spread the word that this is a good life we have right here, and we should try to help as many people as we can. I'm not even saying that because I'm that, Mother Teresa-esque. I'm not. But it's the way I live my life, and I think that's why people like taking my classes, and I think that's why some of you are in this chat room right now, because it's a refreshing attitude, perhaps. Anyway, back to the chat room, which I'm way behind on. Let's see. Students want independent courses. Dale McCormick says, what are you drinking there? I don't know. Katie just handed it to me. Trebbiano, Italian grape. Italian Piedmont, northeastern Italy. Right, Katie? Trebbiano? I think it's northeastern Italy. North of Venice. Let's see. Hope is is the one John will start offering after retirement on BET. Yes. Let's see, and I see some back and forth between Pat Plaid Katie and Dale McCormick. They should hire you as the basketball coach. I played basketball when I was like 10. I sucked at that then, so I don't know how much of a good coach I'd be. But thank you, Halveen. Mally Goss of FTW says, do you have any tips on learning about international current events from a non-U.S., non-Western perspective, i.e. news sites, podcast people? That is a very good question, Mally. And the answer is easy. There are a plethora, and I love that word, plethora. It means many. There are a plethora of great news sites out there that are still semi-independent and are doing quality research. So I'm getting ready to offend some people here. I don't give a shit. Fox News is not a news station. I'm not anti-Trump. I'm not anti-Republican. I'm making fun of this one news station. It's not a news station. It is a repeating station. And they're not alone. There are many what I call repeating stations. And so what do I mean by that? And why am I picking on Fox News? Because it's the one that I know all of you know. So it's a touchstone reference point. There are news sources that are giving you the news because they have investigative people in the field. They have foreign correspondents. They have people out in Pakistan and in Beijing and in South Africa and in Argentina who are there looking at events, assessing what's happening, and reporting back to the news site that congregates that news, collates that news, and then says, here's what's going on in Beijing tonight, and Pakistan and Argentina. And most of those sources usually have folks who have done this their entire lives, and they are pretty good at writing and pretty good at reporting, but they have what's called kind of first point reference news. They are there. They are talking to prime ministers and presidents. They are there talking to the people in a street protest in Bangalore. They are there. They are collecting information, and they are summarizing it and bringing it to you, the news viewer. Those are news sources, and they're not that hard to find. They are bigger institutions like the New York Times or even the Washington Post, but there's a good site in Germany called DW. It's short for Deutsche Welle. That's the German main news source. There's the BBC out of UK. They're actually not as good as they used to be, but they have foreign correspondents and they report on stuff from around the world. There's France 24. France 24 is a global site that has their own reporters and collects their own data. So there are Chinese sites like that. There are Indian sites like that. There are South African sites like that. There are Nigerian news sources. But you'd have to go out and find out who they are. And even the ones I've mentioned have certain biases. So a lot of people, especially in today's rabid, polarized American world, they're like, oh, all the news sources are liberal left news. And I'm like, no, not everything is liberal left, because Fox News, aren't you a news station? Are you liberal left? If all the media in America is liberal left, then that means Fox News is liberal left. So you have to take that stuff with a grain of salt. But you can do just literally 60 seconds of research and find out who funds the New York Times. What is generally their slant on politics? Who funds Deutsche Welle? Who funds the BBC? Do they tend to lean right or do they tend to lean left? Because there are news sources, like most news sources out of China, are owned by the Chinese government. That has inherent bias. The Chinese government is not going to allow any of their 10 different news sources report anything bad about China ever. Russia's the same way. Russia owns all of the news sources of Russia. Those have bias. And here's the thing, even with their bias, they still can be informative news, but you have to know the bias up front. So once you understand that Russia owns and controls every single word in print and on video and on the internet that comes out of Russia, You just have to know that. Then you can pick and choose your stories. So any story that Russia has about America, don't bother reading that. That's propaganda. They might even get some of the facts right, but it's propaganda. Their mission is to make America look bad. And so if it's a story from a Russian news source about America or most European countries, it's too jaded to even be read. Even if they have some of the facts right, they tilt it too hard one way or the other. And the same could be said for American news sources. They're not as bad, but the New York Times is more liberal. They tend towards the liberal, but they actually report on facts. They don't make up facts, okay? Chinese government news sources and Russian news sources are owned by the government, so you can't believe anything that they say about their enemies because that's coming from the government. But you can believe when Russia or Chinese websites report on a natural disaster inside their country, or report on something happening between Ethiopia and Eritrea, because China and Russia don't have a vested interest in faking that news or jading it towards their own viewpoint for the reader. So Russia and Chinese news sources are pretty decent at reporting on things in their own countries and in other countries that aren't their enemies, right? And everybody else in the world is somewhere in between. That really radical, it's a government voice box that you can't really trust unless it's about something that the government doesn't care about. And completely more open and liberal news, and I don't mean liberal like left, but like open, free, and fair with real reporting news that happens out of your serious European news sources and serious American news sources. And by American, I mean USA, Canadian, Mexican, Argentinian, Brazilian. There are real news sources in all of these countries. You just have to do a little bit of homework to figure out which ones they are. And there used to be a great website. If somebody can email me and remind me and say, Boyer, what was the news site that you told us about on office hours that has an assessment of every news source on planet Earth? It was a gorgeous site. I want to say it was worldpress.com. I think it was worldpress.com, and it was a site that rated all the other news sources online. Not really rated them, but just said, here's who funds this news source, and here's their political leaning. And they would say things like the BBC, independent but left-leaning. Or Beijing Today, government-owned Chinese propaganda, right-leaning. So they would tell you exactly what category, and they were pretty good. I don't know if that site still exists, but if somebody emails me and reminds me, I'll go look it up and check. Okay, so I got off on this big tangent, and I started with making fun of Fox News. And I will return to making fun of Fox News, and it's got nothing to do with President Trump. I don't care. Fox News is not news. That is opinion pieces. Fox News does not have foreign correspondents. Fox News does not have people on the ground. Fox News does not take it seriously to go out and vet the facts. They are not interested in that. They are more interested in saying, well, we're going to go read everybody else's news, and then we're going to tell a story that suits our purposes. And Fox News is not alone. There are many, 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 many news sources like that. In fact, what has changed in my lifetime, unfortunately for you younger people, what's changed in my lifetime is that the vast majority of news sources when I was your age were actual news sources. And with some that were more propaganda and opinion pieces. And what's happened in my lifetime, in particular the last 10, call it 20 years, is that percentage has wildly changed. So 50 years ago, 95% of news sources were news, and 5% were propaganda and opinion pieces. And now it's more like 30% of news sources are real news, and 70% of them are now recycling news stories and propaganda and opinion pieces. And that's what gets clicks and gets likes and gets people fired up and gets their panties in a bunch, and that sells commercials. So there has been a significant change in how news is reported on planet Earth just in my lifetime. I would actually say just this century. And a lot of it is got to do with the internet, and then social media and all of this stuff that in combination has kind of come together to be like, hey, we're not, this is why you asked me the question, we're not really sure what the news is anymore because so much of it is not verifiable news and not vetted news. Yes, dear.
It's worldpress.org.
Worldpress.org. I got it right. Oh, .org. What did I say?
.org.
I said .com. Worldpress.org is still alive and well and functioning. All of you go check that out right now if you're interested in this. Worldpress.org. What you'll not find on worldpress.org is the probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of internet news sites that are just repeating news. So, I mean, there's probably millions of these bullshit sites. And I call them bullshit not because of what they're spouting, but because they're stealing other people's work and then spinning it into their own opinion pieces and pretending as if they're reporting news. And that really pisses me off. And let me tell you why it pisses me off. Because that attitude and that business model is going to destroy all real news. And then what the hell are people going to do to find out what the hell's going on? Because these tens of millions of these fake-ass propaganda sites, propaganda and opinion, I shouldn't say propaganda, opinion piece sites that are simply created to get clicks and likes and sell advertisement, they don't do any real work. They don't do any of the heavy lifting. They're cutting and pasting and reposting and doing inflammatory things. And good for them, I guess. They're making money. But at the end of the day, if they bankrupt all the real news sources, then who are they going to steal from? There will be no one left actually with correspondents in the field who are actually reporting on actual events for these other businesses, for these leech businesses to be stealing from in order to do what they're doing. So that kind of shit really pisses me off. It's the same kind of stuff that's happening in the music industry and even in publishing, like textbooks or fiction or nonfiction books. Is everything now is just free on the internet, and so it's getting harder for people to have the incentive to write a book or write a piece of music that will be stolen immediately and repackaged by somebody else online. You all are living through the generation that's going to have to figure that out, by the way. And now, of course, we're introducing artificial intelligence, AI, that AI is going to write all the new books. AI is going to create all the new music. AI is going to do everything. Bullshit. AI, at this point in our experience, is simply a scraper of data off the internet and a duplicator. AI is just a copier of human endeavor the same way that these fake news sites are that I was just making fun of. And if the fake news sites and AI combined are just mimicking, copying and mimicking everything that's happening online and making even new content from the stuff they've copied and mimicked, that's fine and dandy. But what happens when all the original content people cease to exist? What happens when humans stop writing music? When humans stop writing books? When there are no more news sites that humans are reporting on actual news? What are all these algorithms going to copy? What will they be copying and modifying to resell? And the answer is nothing. And unfortunately, at that point, they would have destroyed all the real human agency out there that is doing the real stuff. So I actually find AI an interesting conundrum that it's going to be a victim of its own success. It's going to be able to mimic human endeavor just well enough to put all the humans out of business, but once the humans stop inputting real data into the system, there's nothing left for them to copy. Right? Was that way too deep for any of y'all? Did any of y'all just understand what the hell I'm laying down here? Because that shizzle just got a little bit more than skin deep. But I'm supposed to be here talking about office hours, so I'm sorry I got off on that tangent. I can't remember how I got off on that tangent, but oh, here's why. Because Mally asked me what news sites should you go look at. And if you all task me, I will try to do a better job in the next few weeks of going out and telling and vetting the news sites that I use and putting those together into a document to give to you. It's not that hard, by the way. If you want to go do this yourself, I can help do this for you too. But if you want to do this yourself, really, any news site that has foreign correspondents and is older than 50 years, and pretty much any news site that's older than 50 years, they're old school. They're doing it right. They're probably all going to be bankrupt soon, but they're doing it correct with real feet on the ground reporting on facts that are vetted. So old news sites have been around for a long time, probably pretty trustworthy. And anybody that has foreign correspondence, probably pretty trustworthy. But I can help make a list for you if that helps. First time chatter from Cabarino14 says, I can't believe you're leaving. Yeah, it's actually not by choice, Cabarino, but thank you. Makes you so sad. It's okay. It's okay. I probably will do more online after I leave than while I've been here. Jay, Mr. Manolo says, imagine taking the students into a virtual open class in Twitch, including possible new substitute teachers. Boom. I like where you're going with there, Mr. Manolo. Pardon me. Kier Nanpick says, do you watch any of the football games yesterday? I did not. I'm sorry. Kier. I'm getting ready to head to Eurasia for a month. And I've got like 13 things I've got to do in the next 48 hours. And I'm leaving on Saturday to get on a plane to go to London, to Tunisia, to Uzbekistan, to Vietnam, Thailand, Bhutan, Nepal, Qatar, Egypt, and Malta. So I actually don't even have time to look at a TV anymore. I don't even know how I'm having time to do this. But it's the beginning of the semester, and I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and if anybody has any questions. And I really want to do a podcast tomorrow about what I'm calling the Greenland Grab, Donald Trump's Greenland Grab. I think it's quite fascinating, and so we're really going to try to do that tomorrow. And Katie, hold me to it. We just got to do it. How many of you will tune in for a whole podcast on the Greenland Grab tomorrow? And by the way, it's 8:34. You've been in the office hours for roughly 30 minutes. For you first-timers, is everybody listening close? Is everybody listening close? I'm going to get close to the camera. I'm going to get close. I'm going to get close into the microphone. You got to listen close. Here's how it works if you're currently in World Regions or Geography of Wine. It's 8:34. You have exactly 120 seconds to text me right now. Not text me, email me right now at joboyer@vt.edu. And say, I'm in the online office hours, and I want to see the Greenland Grab. And if you do that, you just earn 10 points of extra credit. But you got to do it in 120 seconds. I have to receive the email before 8:37. It's 8:34. You have to 8:37 to email me right now and say, I'm in the online office hour, and I want to see the Greenland Grab. Keyword Greenland Grab. You can just say Greenland Grab, and I'm going to give you 10 points for that. If you're watching this video 10 minutes later, 100 minutes later, or the next a week from now, don't email me. It's only till 8:37 on Monday night, and you just got 10 points. Bam. Back to the chat room. Mr. Piggy Pork. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Kier. I did not watch any football games and probably won't. Happy Hawaiian says, question from wine class. I learned in winery tourism class that legs in a wine was a decent measure of alcohol content, not just viscosity. True or nah? Nah. You're using the right words. And I do not want to be dismissive of your instructor in that course. It's a great course. I just don't happen to believe in the whole legs phenomena, especially if you're using legs to try to define any sort of quality. That is preposterous, and I will go up against the best of them in the wine industry to suggest that a wine that has legs is a good wine and a wine that doesn't have legs is a bad wine is completely preposterous. Poppycock, no less. So you're using the right words though. Viscosity is what causes legs. Viscosity is basically thickness. You have different viscosities of motor oil. So viscosity creates legs, and legs are the things that when you swirl the wine, as it drips back down, it'll form certain lines if the wine is more viscous, and it won't form lines if the wine is less viscous, that is thinner body versus a thicker bodied wine. Now, the problem I have with using viscosity, or i.e. legs, as a measure of anything in wine is because there are lots of different things that can increase the viscosity of a wine. So what is it you want me to get from this? If a wine is high in sugar, it will have higher viscosity, more legs. If a wine is high in alcohol, it will have high viscosity and it will have more legs. If a wine is high in tannin component, it will be more viscous and have more legs. So saying that this wine has legs and therefore it's something, well, maybe, but there are lots of things that can cause that phenomena. Well, not lots, but there's a set of things that can cause that phenomena, and none of them is a particular marker that this wine is of greater value. So you can have a wine that has got all kinds of viscosity, but it sucks. So I certainly don't equate viscosity to quality, but your instructor was at least partially correct. Yes, if a wine has bigger legs or more pronounced legs, then it is high in something. And it could be that it's high in alcohol. But again, it also could be super high in sugar or super high in tannins or maybe even in acids. So there are lots of things that can build a body of a wine, and it's the body of a wine, a higher fullness body of a wine is what causes viscosity. But do not in any way, shape, or form equate that to quality. Because if you just said, well, the bigger the legs, the more higher quality of a wine is, well, pour maple syrup in your glass then. Spin that around. Maple syrup will have hella legs. Hella legs with maple syrup. Does that make it a good wine? It does not. You just imagine maple syrup dripping down the inside of a glass, and that's what legs are, the dripping down of something viscous. So hopefully that answers your question, and hopefully your instructor never sees me say this out loud because I don't want to offend them. But higher legs can be higher alcohol, but it also can be higher sugar or can be higher of something else. Mr. Piggy Pork Chop says, "Will you keep streaming after you retire?" Oh, just the inverse, Mr. Piggy Pork Chop. I'm gonna stream more after I retire. I have yet to begun to stream this fight. We're just We're just getting warmed up on the online presence of the Plaid Avenger. It's just now starting. Halveen says you should drop an album. FS. I should drop an album. This is Boris says, I might be jumping the gun a little bit with this question, but as a Turkish person, I'm curious as to why you categorize Turkey as its own region and your perspective about it, and I'm excited to get to that part of the course. Boom! Great question. This is Boris, and I will give you my exact precise answer that I am almost certain you're going to agree with. The Middle East is a pretty vast region. It's on a map behind me. All of North Africa, Turkey, Iran, the Arabian Peninsula, and some would call all the way up into Central Asia as the Middle East. But that's an awfully big region. And there are a lot of different things happening in that region. And one of the ways that I teach the Middle East in this course, and we'll do it increasingly online, is that you need to understand the Middle East as a series of competing interests over all human history. And the main players in this competing saga across this territory, and we're talking for thousands of years. You can point to the Arab ethnicity, Team Arab I call them, that has classically been in the Arabian Peninsula and really didn't rise to fame and fortune and worldwide impact until the discovery or advent or creation of the religion Islam. And so it wasn't until 622 AD, I mean, the Arabs were mostly local dudes hanging out, dudes and dudettes, hanging out in the Arabian Peninsula, of no great consequence on the world stage. until a religion, a major world religion, was created in their midst. And they took that religion and spread out to all of North Africa, the Middle East, Central Asia, Europe, and beyond. So Team Arab has a major stake in the Middle East. However, even before Team Arab became popular, there was this team called the Persians. And you know the Persians as modern day Iran. And the ancient Persians used to be the soup du jour, badass empire that controlled almost all of the Middle East. And this is like 600 BC. Have you ever heard of Alexander the Great or the Greeks or the Macedonians beating the Persians? They were pushing back the Persians back in the day. You ever seen the movie The 300? I love that movie, The 300. It's wildly not accurate, but it's based on roughly on some actual historical events that happened when the Persians tried to overrun Greece and failed back in the 300 BC region or BC area. And so the Persians were the badass empire for a very long time and have a long cultural and historical tradition in the Middle East. They are another major player in the Middle East. And by the way, to fast forward, the Iran and Saudi Arabia and most of the Arab countries don't get along now because of ancient, I'd say ancient's not the right word, but it's close, long-standing historical competition between Team Arab and Team Persia, that is Iran, is still playing out in today's world. And now I'll get to your question. I'm sorry, who asked the question? Damn, I lost it. Mally, right? Or like, where'd that go? You asked, why do I separate Turkey from the rest of the Middle East? Because Team Turk is a distinctive, completely separate ethnic group, linguistic group, and actually they're kind of the latecomers to the Middle East. The Turkish, the descendants of the people we now call the Turks, in a country we now call Turkey, they're not even from the Middle East. That group came from Central Asia like 1,000 years ago. Well, not even that, 800 years ago. So Turkish, what we now call Turkish people are actually from, I got a map behind me. They're actually from way up here, almost near what's now Mongolia, and who migrated down over centuries into what's now Central Asia, and then bands of them made it over into what's now Anatolia, or I'm sorry, what's now Turkey. Anatolia is another old word you don't know. So Team Turk formed up at a much later date and came to dominate the entire Middle East as the Ottoman Turkish Empire, starting in, I'm testing my memory now, let's call it the 1300s, 1400s, all the way up until the modern age. So Turkey, to me, I actually want to just break apart all the Middle East in the future and just say, you know what, I'm going to talk about the Persians first because they've been there the longest, or the most, they're the team that's been there the longest, that had the biggest impact across the region. And then I'm going to talk about Team Arab and the rise of Islam. And then I'm going to talk about Team Turk. And these are three distinct groups of people with three distinct cultures and three distinct histories that all just happen to be interwoven because of geography in this place that we, as outsiders, call the Middle East. But they really don't have, that much. I was going to say they don't have that much in common. They have a shared history because they're all neighbors, but they have very distinct histories. And I think when it comes to the Turks, as quite frankly, outsiders who came in and then conquered the Byzantine Empire and took over what's now modern day Constantinople and Turkey, they're the latest ones on the scene, and they made the biggest impact into modern history. Does that answer your question, Melly? So they're part of the long saga of Middle Eastern history, but they're the most recent comers, and they're the ones that most recently controlled all the Middle East. And they also are not from the area, and they also have dealt with the Europeans much more than the Persians or the Arabs have. So Team Turk is very unique, and so unique enough that I can't bring myself to just say it's part of the Middle East. It's quite different for a variety of reasons. Once you get to that chapter, you'll understand. And by the way, Mally, if you press my buttons this semester, I've been wanting to do a whole lecture just on Turkey, and so this could be the semester. If you and some other folks really want me to do it, press me for it, and I'll make sure it happens this semester. I'm sorry, I said Mally. This is Bora asked that question. This is Bora. Hopefully that answers your question. I get lost in the chat room because I'm already like 5,000 comments behind. Let's see. You guys are going back and forth about Bojangles and red wine. Okay. First time chatter from Eplund who says thoughts on Colombia getting bitch slapped last night. Yeah. Thank you for your first time chat, Eplund. Very good question. I love it that we're going back and forth all over the world here because this is what the office hours is for. That was intriguing and a perhaps sign of things to come. And I don't mean that in a good or bad way. And certainly the Trump administration is trying to promote this. I'm not even sure how to define it. I want to say bully. They want to promote this bully image of America now of like, if you don't do what we say, we're going to punch you in the face. And maybe that's what they want. Maybe they say, yes, we're bullies. We don't care. America's going to get everything we want. And we'll screw everybody to get it. I'm like, well, sure. That's an approach I've not seen in my lifetime. I have not. You can ask your parents and your grandparents. I don't think anybody's seen an American administration do this. And we've rarely seen any country's government do things of this nature, where they just say, we hate everyone and we are going to screw anyone until we get everything we want. That's not happened before. And again, if you're rabid Trump fans, I'm not making fun of him. I'm trying to understand this along with everybody else. So I'm much more of the opinion, as most politicians and diplomats are, that, hey, it's perhaps better to have a lot of friends and you give and take with your friends, and you have a really strong big team of a lot of different friends and allies across the planet who we all agree on certain things, and we help each other in certain ways. And sometimes I give you a little bit more money and you give me a little bit more backup on defense. But, you know, this is diplomacy. In my lifetime, and your parents' lifetime, and your grandparents' lifetime, we've never had a government who said, we don't even care about our friends. This is new. And by the way, I'm going to keep saying this. I'm not anti-Trump. I'm not making fun of Trump. Don't get on a high horse and say that I'm a typical liberal college professor who hates conservatives. I don't even care about American politics. I am a watcher of the world. And I'm just telling you, we've not seen this on the world stage before. And so Colombia is an U.S. ally. That's what's intriguing about this. For people like me, it's like, that's one of our friends. And that's how you're going to treat your friends. Okay, this is something new. Colombia actually buys a hell ton of product from America. And America buys a hell ton of certain products from Colombia. Namely, what I know off the top of my head, even before it was widely reported in the last 24 hours, Colombia is the biggest provider of fresh flowers, particularly roses, to the entire American market. And I knew this because of a movie I showed back in class for years called Maria Full of Grace. Oh, Katie, remind me. We might have to throw that out as a bonus because of this Colombian bitch slap. And thank you for stating it that way, because now I'm going to remember that, Eplund. The Colombian bitch slap might propel me to add an extra movie for this semester, maybe even this week, called Maria Full of Grace, about a woman who is trying to get to America and becomes a drug mule to get to America. And the movie starts in a rose factory in Colombia. That's why I already knew. I'm like, oh, no. Colombia and the U.S. have very strong ties, and America has strong ties with Colombia because it was working with Colombia for decades to try to stop the cocaine trade, which is another major thing Colombia supplies to the United States. So it's interesting that a country that has been a loyal ally to the United States and has gone out of its way to protect its reputation and relationship with the United States, including living through an era of almost civil war, trying to support U.S. drug policy to stop drug production in Colombia, and suffered horrifically doing the bidding of the United States on that drug policy, is now being punished by the United States because their president said we don't want to accept a couple hundred refugees. I'm sorry, a couple of hundred immigrants that are being deported from the United States. So it is setting a tone, and it's a tone of we don't even give a shit about our allies, so you better watch out. Honestly, I can see where that's a fairly potent foreign policy, because China and Russia are looking at this going, damn, they're willing to screw over their friends. What the hell are they going to do to us? What's Trump going to do to us? He doesn't even like us. And they're screwing over their allies. It's an interesting... you have to laugh about this stuff, because otherwise, you'll just sit and cry in your cold stew and then commit suicide. So I'm not political. I don't take sides. I am simply looking at what's going on and trying to help you understand it. And this is we're on new ground here. We might as well land it on Mars. So I know you guys are young and you've not followed politics or world events or history as much as I have. And I'm telling you, it's a very confusing time, even for old people, because we are on new ground. We might as well have landed on Mars. No one is really sure what the hell is going on, because you've never had an administration behave this way. And right out of the box, on the second week of the administration, they're challenging and throwing down and slamming one of their allies. It's just not been done before. So does that mean I think Trump administration is doing bad things? No, I'm just telling you it's doing something new that's very hard for us to be able to predict what's next. And it could be that it becomes a wildly successful thing, and everybody on planet Earth bows down to American power and succumbs and says, we give up. We understand the Trump administration is going to win every fight and beat everybody, so we give up now. I wouldn't hold your breath that's going to happen. And usually when you throw down this hard this early against your own allies, you're already kind of setting yourself up for harder fights in the future. But that's just me. I just my opinion on that particular matter of Donald Trump and his administration may have the best intentions of America in mind, at least their intentions of America in mind. And they believe in their heart of hearts that America is the strongest power on planet Earth, which it is. And that America has the greatest nuclear arsenal and greatest military on planet Earth, which they do. And that in owning those very powerful tools, they can simply demand every country on planet Earth succumb to their every whim. That's the part I don't think is going to play out for them in the long run. Because eventually some countries are going to be like, you know what, I don't give a shit. We're not doing that. And China and Russia were never going to do it. And so we could be getting to an inflammatory point with certain countries very quickly. Beating down your friends and claiming it's a victory seems a little premature to me. But again, who the hell am I? I'm just a geography professor here at Virginia Tech, at least for a little bit longer. So thank you for bringing up the bitch slap. It is extremely intriguing. For those of you who didn't follow the story, the president of Colombia said, hey, you're disrespecting these immigrants. You need to treat them with the proper respect, and we're not going to accept these plane loads of immigrants you're deporting until you treat them right. And Trump immediately came out and said, we're not going to do shit, and we'll just smash your country to bits and tariff all your stuff and bankrupt you. And that worked. When they said, oh, okay, never mind. So that worked. It worked with Colombia, one of our allies. Will it work with any enemies? Doubtful. There are enemies. And will it work for countries that are our allies, but are a little more independent and a little stronger economies that don't have to rely on the U.S. as much? That is going to be the testing ground coming up. And that's my opinion on Colombia getting bitch slapped. First time chatter, Eplin. Thank you for your first time chat. That's a very good question. First time chatter from Old God Titan. Old God Titan. It says, seeing my class being semi-taught on Twitch is actually so cool. Well, thank you, Titan. This is what we need to do way more of in the future. To JMar3806, John, it'll be a crime to add liquid Splenda to wine. I've never thought about that. But if the wine is super thin and super acidic to the point of being bracing, like hurts your teeth, I would add Splenda. You're not going to... If you're not enjoying the wine, then adulterating it or modifying or adding something to it, how can it hurt it? You're not enjoying it and you don't want to drink it. So you should always experiment with stuff. If you're drinking something, you're like, this isn't good. Try to make it warmer if it's too cold. Try to make it colder if it's too warm. Try it with a different food because perhaps it's not meant to be drunk on its own. And if it's just bad, chuck it. But if it's like bad because it's like, oh, it's too acidic, it's too tart, it's too this, it's too that, then modify it. Can't drink it? Modify it. There's your bumper sticker. Dale McCormick says, Placata, I can't neglect my wines. Oh, it's Andy. Cabarino 14 says, I have an unopened bottle of Riesling wine from a year ago. Will I die if I drink it? Nope. It'll probably be better. If you bought it from Kroger or Walmart or Trader Joe's, it's pretty much stable in the bottle for a couple years. It won't be affected really probably at all. Unless it's been left in the sunlight.
I said or heat. Yeah.
Heat. If you leave wine in sunlight, it gets toasted. If you get it too hot, if you leave it near your water heater in the closet, it will get toasted. It'll get burnt. If you have too much temperature disparity, so if you left it on your back porch and all year round and it was 100 degrees in the summer and it got -10 in the winter, that wine's probably toast. But if it's just a wine, whether it's a cheap wine or expensive wine, and you just kept it in a single room for 1 year, should be fine. A wine of any color and any style for 1 year should be able to hold its own. Having said that, if it's a $5 wine versus a $50 wine, the $5 wine, it'll probably be all right. After a few years, that $5 wine probably is gone. But a $50 Riesling, no, it should hold its own for a while. The higher craftsmanship of any product, the longer it lasts, including wine. I know that sounds weird, but you all know how this works, even at your age. If you bought a ball bearing or a stereo or a car or a couch that, one version cost $10 and the other version cost $100,000. The $100,000 one is better crafted. A 10-cent ball bearing versus a $10 ball bearing. The $10 ball bearing is definitely better crafted because how else could they get $10 for it? So anytime you start to pay more money for a product, it should be of higher quality. It's got artisanal skill imparted to it, or a better formula, or a better something. And so it will last longer. And the same is true with wine. A $10, a $5 wine compared to a $50 wine, I won't even say that the $5 wine tastes worse than the $50 wine. And I won't even tell you that the $50 wine tastes 10 times better than a $5 wine. But I will tell you this. The $50 wine is certainly better crafted, and it will last longer in the bottle than a $5 wine. That makes sense? Okay. Hopefully that was a good enough question for you. First time chatter from Asnes3 says, are you by chance related to Will Ferrell?
You're so behind on questions too. You get like minutes.
Oh, yeah, I am Will Ferrell, by the way. I'm not related to them. I am Will Ferrell. We're twins. Let's see. Lisa Lasita in the house with a Putin icon. Hello from Seattle. Hello, Lisa Lasita from the West Coast, best coast, some would say. Olgo Titan says, odd question. I know we've been having a lot of tariff stuff going down currently. I'm not too knowledgeable about this stuff. Do you have any predictions for how things are going to go based on your experience studying regions and history? Sure, that's an easy answer, Titan. The quick answer is tariffs have never ever worked in the long term. Tariffs have never worked in the medium term. Tariffs have worked sometimes in the short term. So tariffs are just a tax. A tax makes things more expensive. And so Donald Trump's administration is utterly convinced beyond any shadow of a doubt. All they have to do is raise taxes on all goods from all other countries, and it will do two things. One, it will raise revenue because the people who get the tariff is the U.S. government. They think it's going to raise revenues for the U.S. government. And two, they also suggest that because all other foreign products will become so much more expensive, everyone will then buy local American-made products. And that is hilarious because it has been tried so many times and has failed virtually every time that it's almost comical. I mean, I'm not even an economist, but you can go get any economics book and read about tariffs, and they'll be like, yeah, Brazil tried it in the 80s, Argentina tried it in the 90s, the Swiss tried it in the 1660s, the Germans tried it in this, the Chinese tried it in that, and you're like, but you know what? I'm not an anti-Trumper. Maybe this time it will work. Maybe this time, this very special time, that the Trump administration will raise tariffs on all products across planet Earth, which will have the immediate effect of making everything in America really, really expensive. And again, the long play for people who believe in tariffs is, well, if you make everything really, really expensive, then that encourages local businesses, that is U.S. businesses, to start making those products because they can make more money. And so the easy example is things like steel, which this has been going on for a century now. Yeah, the U.S. used to be masters of steel. We did it better than anybody else. We did it so good. We used to make so much for ourselves, then we'd sell a bunch to other countries. But then other countries got good at it too, and other countries got good at it and better at it than us. And they started doing it cheaper than us. So then other countries like Japan could sell their steel cheaper to the United States than the United States could sell to the United States. And we're talking about different corporations. We're not talking about the government. But say there's 1,000 corporations in America who need steel. Well, 100 years ago, all that steel to those 1,000 corporations would have been provided by 5 or 10 or 20 U.S. steel corporations. But then other countries got more competitive and could do it better, faster, and cheaper. And so those 1,000 corporations in America started buying Japanese steel. And so, the theory is, well, I'm going to tax that Japanese steel and make it so much more expensive than the U.S. steel that U.S. steel producers will then start selling more steel in the U.S. And even if those companies have gone out of business, it will encourage new U.S. steel companies to start up because they can compete better and make more money because the Japanese steel is twice the price due to the tariff that the government has put on it. So we can make more money because we can sell it cheaper now. Now, again, that's a great theory. It looks good on paper. Buy American, buy local, blah, 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 blah. But the problem is it's false. If you have to tax another country's stuff because they're doing it better, faster, cheaper, that means your companies are not doing it better, faster, cheaper. And it's only a matter of time before the false price that you've inflicted on all the outside things comes due. And American corporations who are not doing it better, faster, cheaper will eventually fail because their product won't be as good. It won't be as competitive as the ones from Japan or China or Australia or Brazil. So the system, this has been tried so many times in the past. And maybe it's worked a time or two to save an industry here or there. But trying to force a country as big as the United States in a global economy as complex as the 21st century global economy, trying to force the U.S.'s economy to do everything in-house and ignore the rest of the world, it just doesn't work. Again, you can make it work for a little bit, but it eventually just doesn't work. And I would offer this to the Trumpies, who are almost like the Reaganites. I know you guys are too young to know who Reagan is anymore, but Ronald Reagan hated commies. You're going to get to this chapter in the book. He really hated commies. Hated commies. Communists were the worst. Communists and the socialists, they're the worst, because all they want is to like share benefits and have people have health care, and all the companies are owned by the state, and they're all state run. And by the way, they all failed. Every experiment of communism has failed. And you know why? Because when you protect an industry, the Russian steel industry ultimately failed. The Russian car industry failed. The Russian tractor industry failed. Because it was so protected, they had no competition. And if you have no competition, people don't give a shit. And people in the car factories of Russia are like, well, we don't give a shit. Why do we need to make a better Russian car? The people have no choice. They have to buy the Russian cars. Why would U.S. steel corporations make steel any better? The companies who need steel can't get it from Japan. It's too expensive. So the reason that tariffs ultimately fail is the same reason communism ultimately fails, which is when you eliminate competition, or when you falsify the game so that you eliminate competition, eventually your industries end up sucking because they don't have to compete. End of line. Damn, that was a good rant right there. That was pretty good. I don't even know how I got off on that. Let's see. Damn it, where am I at on
You're
this?
so behind.
I know. I got Will Ferrell. Reasons can
You're
go
like
for
30
decades.
minutes behind.
Oh, I'll be fine. I mean, everybody can leave if they have. If you have to go home, you have to go home. But I'm going to try to do a podcast on Greenland tomorrow night, so be watching out for that. And that'll be one that we make a flash quiz out of for points. So I'm going to need some of you to tune into that and help me make flash quiz questions. And speaking of which, it's 9:08. Everyone who's still in the chat room, if you email me again right this second, and say U.S. Steel Rules. U.S. Steel Rules is the catchphrase. If you email me by 9/11, I will give you another 5 points. Everyone who's currently still in the chat room, you only have till 9/11. You just earn another 5 points. U.S. Steel Rules! Hopefully that answered your question. God Titan. Lisa Lasita up with the 15 Putin heads. Double Ot Fan HQ says, no, anyone know where to get cheap wine? I'm a bit poor. For those of you in the wine class, here's a wine tip. A place called the Vintage Cellar up near the Gucci Kroger's does free wine tastings on Saturdays and maybe Fridays. The Vintage Cellar up on South Main next to the liquor store. So there's the Gucci Kroger, the liquor store. The Vintage Cellar is next to that, and they have free wine tastings either on Friday or Saturday or both. Go up and check them out. You can use the free wine tasting as your tasting for your blog. You don't have to buy it at all. It's free. You just got to take a picture of it while you're there and take notes and put it on your blog. It's free. As Ness3 says, is Aldi wine Boyer approved? I actually haven't had any up there, but I need to give it a try. It's probably just standard European plonk. It's probably fine stuff. It's totally acceptable. Do keep in mind, my friends in the wine class, you do not have to spend a ton of money on wine. You just do not. The average European drinks wine every day or every other day, and they don't spend more than $5 or $10 on a bottle. The idea that you need to go out and spend $100 on a bottle of wine every meal is preposterous. European-style living is wine every day, and it's just average good wine. It's the way that we drink water and milk in our country. It's just like, no, it's just on the table. I don't need to buy a $50 bottle of milk. Just regular milk will be fine. And that's the way it is with wine. So do not overspend, and you don't need to overspend. And don't dismiss a $5 or $10 bottle of wine from Aldi or even from Kroger. They're all drinkable. They just won't be as highly crafted and artisanal as I like, but you're beginning. You're just starting your journey, so those wines are fine. Try them, drink them, have fun with them. Dale McCormick says, oh, I'm sorry, first time chatter from Air Conditioner 3 who's saying hi. Hi, Air Conditioner 3. That's a good screen name. Dale McCormick says, oh, that's the Plaid Katie. Plaid Katie answered back. Mally goes, FTW says, Ad Fontes Media rated political bias for U.S. sources. Okay, that's a good one. Good one to check out. J. Mar says, I think you mentioned World Press in your lecture in the past week. WorldPress.org. Jump112,002 says, Fox News is considered an entertainment network at this point by the courts. Yes, that actually is a better description, and I'm not saying that to be offensive. Fox News is entertainment. It's entertainment that uses the news other people are reporting as their basis for their entertainment. I think that Fox News might agree with that. I don't know why they would take offense to it, because they're not generating the news. So you can't say, I'm a news network, but I'm just copying everybody else. Then it's like, no. You're mimicking a news network. I think an entertainment industry is a much more applicable term for Fox News. And the thousands of others like them, by the way. They're not alone. Thank you, Jamar, for the shout out on worldpress.org. Happy Hawaiian says Fox News has Trey Yingst, who is a very good international correspondent in the Middle East. Oh, I'll have to check that out. I did not know they had any correspondents. Thank you, Happy Hawaiian. I must check in to Fox News to see if they have correspondents now. Let's see. God Titan says, I saw in the syllabus you offered points for the Friday Twitch talks between 2 and 4 in my class. Well, that was a typo on the syllabus. We're doing Twitch talks on Mondays, Sundays and Mondays. And then if I do when I do a straight up podcast like I'm going to do tomorrow, that'll be recorded. So you don't have to do it. You don't have to be there live. It will be recorded. And so you'll be able to watch it for like a 48 or 72 hour period. So you're not going to miss anything that's worth points, except this, which I just randomly throw out points for fun.
What time is the podcast tomorrow?
We'll shoot for 8 again, but I have so much work to do. I'm hoping to get to it by 8. If I'm going to do it, I'll send a notice out by 6. Dale McCormick says, will there be any extra credit for going to the wine lab for students in the Geog class? I couldn't give you extra credit, Dale. That would be what we call a conflict of interest. Since I own the wine lab, I actually cannot encourage you to go to the wine lab. I can't even tell you to go to the wine lab. I can't even suggest to you go to the wine lab. And I certainly can't give you points to go to the wine lab. That would be a conflict of interest. But you do what you feel necessary if you want to go to the wine lab. Rex76 Plays is back in the house saying, evening, Professor. Hope your semester has started well. It has, Rex Plays. We got some good people in this chat room tonight. This is a good time. We're already 15 minutes over the office hour, and I'm having so much fun. I'm going to keep going. First time chatter from Not Extra, who says, with their last Friday, the extra credit was the red wine flight. Boom! Thank you, first time chatter, Not Extra. That's a good screen name, too, by the way. Jump112,002 is saying, I will. J. Mar said, I would. God Titan says, heck yeah. I think that's in response to me saying about doing a podcast on Greenland tomorrow night. First time chatter, Alcoholism 69. Oh, I can't even comment on that screen name. Thank you, first time chatter, Alcoholism 69. Mally Go says I will. First time chatter, K Molee says I would. Nick says I will. God Titan says, what's the email? Oh, gotcha. Katie already got you that for the Greenland grab. First time chatter from Nate Damon. I was going to say Nate Dam 47. Oh, it's Nate Damon 47 saying, good evening, Professor. Freshman taking world regions here. I wanted your opinion on if we will see the Chinese Communist Party's rule collapse within our lifetime. Never say never, but it seems unlikely anytime soon. Sorry to hedge my bets on that, but you should always be wary of anybody online who says, this is definitely going to happen. Even the stuff I'm talking about with Trump and tariffs, I'm like, I think this is likely to happen. This failed multiple times in the past, but maybe this time it'll work. So I'm not Nate. I don't want to say no. I don't think it will. But my instinct is, it doesn't seem likely. And by the way, the Chinese Communist Party, you could call that the dog and cat lover party. The name communist has nothing to do. The political ideology of communism has absolutely nothing to do with the Chinese Communist Party anymore. Literally, they could call it the Mars Party. They could call it the Bruno Mars Party. They could call it the Bruno Mars House Party of China. It doesn't matter. The name of the party is insignificant. They are a ruling class that holds power. It has nothing to do with ideology. Nothing. And this is a small group of people that control the world's largest standing army. They got a lot of power to keep themselves in power. So it seems unlikely that they would lose power anytime soon. The leaders will come and go, but the power in this small cadre of people is very concentrated. So it's hard for me to understand what would happen to make China have a full-fledged civil war. And that's what it would take. It would have to be something epic that is unpredictable to us. But by the way, that's happened many times in China's past. So that's why I'm not saying this isn't impossible. It's just almost impossible to predict. I mean, I know you guys don't know Chinese history, unless you're from China, which means you probably know even less Chinese history, because the government's only going to let you learn what they want you to hear. But there was something, here's why it's hard to predict anything on planet Earth, much less Chinese history. There was something called the Taiping Rebellion. Seriously, friends, go look this shit up. You could not make this up. If you sat down with a typewriter and had 100 years, you would never come up with a storyline. That like 150 years ago, some dude, and I am obviously condensing here, 150 years ago, some dude woke up in China and said, oh, I just realized that I am the brother of Jesus Christ. And yes, I'm talking about that Jesus Christ. And this guy said, I'm the brother of Jesus Christ, and I'm here to bring Christianity and freedom to the Chinese people, and I'm going to help overthrow the whole freaking government. Now, on the face of that, if you were a betting man, you would bet all the money you've ever had that this guy is an idiot and crazy and is going to die a short death in China. And millions and tens of millions of dead Chinese people later, that rebellion almost succeeded. So there's your proof in the pudding for don't try to predict Chinese history. It seems unlikely at this juncture that the Communist Party could ever lose power, and certainly not anytime soon. But one never knows when a Taiping rebellion's going to pop up. Oh my God, that's another bumper sticker right there. There's your bumper sticker. Oh, that's awesome. One never knows. That reminds me of the Monty Python. One never knows when a Spanish Inquisition's going to break out. No one ever predicts the Spanish Inquisition. So there are radical events that happen, and China, as the biggest population on planet Earth and the longest continuous history of any peoples on planet Earth, there are many stories of stuff that it is just impossible to predict. And the strangest thing can happen in China, and suddenly you have 500 million people on fire. But it's just too hard to predict. But at this juncture, it seems extremely unlikely that the current iteration of the Communist Party is going anywhere. Again, leaders will change, but not the party. And until the Spanish Inquisition breaks out. Thank you for that great question, though, Nate. That's fun. Road Chewer says, I need to get some wine, kind of slacking, but still excited. That's okay. Take your time. We're only in week 2. Chill out, Road Chewer. You got time. You got 14 more weeks of this semester. First time chatter from Solar Zoomer. Good screen name. Says, in Geography Wine, my friend and I run into the problem of not finishing a bottle of wine in a tasting session, of using a wine seal. What would you recommend and why?
I gave some options.
stick the cork back in it and put it in the fridge. So whether it's a red or white, chilling a wine, chilling anything, food or wine, slows down or otherwise retards biological activity. So it doesn't stop biological activity, but it slows it down. That's why you put food back in the fridge so it doesn't spoil. And the same is true with wine, even if it's red. So you can just put whatever, hopefully you're just buying screw cap wines. That's really easy. Just put the screw cap back on. If you have the cork, just put the cork back in and put it in the fridge. That's your best bet to overnight it. And most wines should be fine overnight. If you have a wine that can't even last 12 hours in a fridge after being recorked, it was probably a pretty bad wine to start. Now, I wouldn't push it much past 48 hours. However, most wines, even cheap ones, are crafted well enough now that they'll go a couple days just fine in the fridge. So I wouldn't spend any money on any fancy devices. Just cover with aluminum foil. All you're trying to do is keep air out. However, if you've already drank half the bottle, there's already air in there. So the biological processes are going to make the wine spoil. They're already in there, so you just want to chill it down to slow down the process as much as possible. Okay. Not Extra says, at what price point does the quality of wine stay the same? $30. Actually, I can give you price breaks. So a $20 bottle of wine might be 2 times better than a $10 bottle of wine. It's close. But I'd say a $30 bottle of wine should be twice as good as a $10 bottle of wine. When you get up to $50, a $50 bottle of wine better be twice as good as a $15 or $20 bottle of wine. Once you get past that point, 50, 60, 100, 150, 200, those all better be quality wines. So you can't really do incremental comparisons at that point. Is a $100 bottle of wine twice as good as a $50 bottle of wine? Too close to call, and it's too dependent on the wine itself. And anything over 50 should be really good and drinkable. Is a $1,000 bottle of wine 10 times better than a $100 bottle of wine? Hell no. There's no way at that point. You can't. The quality of a $100 bottle, it really should be really good. And so you can't really get much better. When you start paying excessive amounts for wine, you're paying for the name. You're paying because you're special. You're paying because you want to spend money. You're paying because you want to pretend to be rich. Cristal champagne cost $1,000. Is it worth $1,000? Hell no, it's not worth $1,000. Is Dom Perignon worth $500? Hell no, it's not. You're paying for the brand cachet on that. You're paying for the brand. But I can give you 100 different $50 bottles of champagne that are far better in quality. They just don't have the name cachet. So at your price points right now at your age, buy supermarket wine. It's fine. It's drinkable. It's very hard to even find spoiled or bad wines anymore because everything's, the standard for even the low bar is pretty high anymore. It didn't used to be, but even cheap wines are produced fairly decently now. So anything you get anywhere will be pretty drinkable. I mean, if you get a wine anywhere anymore and you take a sip and you're like, this tastes like shit. It's like, wow, that's a really piss poor wine because everything's pretty good anymore. But you don't need to be spending any more than $20 or $30. So you want to really treat yourself, you can go above 30. You can go 30, 40 if you really want to treat yourself for a special occasion, but don't really dabble over that until you got some money to burn. And then you can kind of taste a $30 bottle of wine versus a $80 bottle of wine and see if you can taste the difference. You should be able to, but you need to, if you're going to do those comparisons, be sure to keep them in the same wine type. Meaning, don't go get a $100 champagne and a $10 Argentinian Malbec. Those are two different wines. They're uncomparable. So if you're going to do price comparisons, stay in the same zone. Do a $10 Malbec from Argentina and a $30 Malbec from Argentina. You should be able to detect some differences of quality, of smoothness, of complexity. That is where you do your comparative tastings, not across styles, because it's a wasted effort. And don't get brand names. Don't get anything that's super famous because you're paying too much for the name and it's not reflective of perhaps the quality in the bottle. Let's see. I hope that answered your question, not extra. Road Chewer says, yeah, what's a good shelf life of an open bottle? I just answered that. Titan says, I may have sent 2 emails for the Greenland Grab. Got excited. All good. 1 of 15 Elvises says, you inspired me. Perfect time to break open the Pinot Noir about last week. Cool. What are you drinking? How did it turn out there, Elvis? Let's see. That's Plaid Katie. Plaid Katie goes back and forth. This is Bora says, that's a pretty good take. I definitely agree with you. That's a person from Turkey. I got it. Let's see. Plaid Katie goes back and forth with, I don't know who you mentioned that with, but back to God Titan says, I'm just worried about other countries like China filling in our role as a friend if we start backing out of things or keep punishing our current friends. I don't know much about the economies or really anything, so I'm kind of in the dark. That's okay, God Titan. That's what this class is for. This semester, you're going to learn a lot more, and you'll be able to hang out with me and have political conversations by 15 weeks from now. Mac user 1232, welcome back, Mac user. I recognize your screen name. Says the Chinese company I do work for has already purchased a factory in Virginia to start moving manufacturing to. Boom. So there you go. You'll be buying American that's tariff-free from a Chinese company in Virginia. Again, this is why the tariff thing is just... A side note, by the way, go do some research for those of you that are still in this chat room and interested. Go Google, and I've not done this. I'm just... someone go try this. Go Google, what were the major regions for the Great Depression in 1929? I'll be surprised if one of them is not countries started raising tariffs against each other and it caused a global trade war. So we're bizarrely almost exactly 100 years later that this government is saying we need to tariff everybody else to bring production back in the house. They did this exact thing 100 years ago. Wow, it's like eerie, the cycle. It's almost 100 years. Only here for the Plaidcast. Wow, welcome back. Only here for the Plaidcast. Says Belarus is in the news on account of Lukashenko's latest election victory. And the recent release of some political prisoners has been theorized to potentially be in hopes of easing Western sanctions. Yeah, good luck with that. Between that and reportedly resisting pressure to send troops to Ukraine, to what degree is Lukashenko genuinely defying Putin as essentially a puppet state of Putin? How much wiggle room does he have before Putin reins him in? I'm not sure I understand why you think Lukashenko is pushing back against Putin. Only here for the Plaidcast. He might have released some political prisoners, but that sounds to me more like a political ploy before the election yesterday to make it, it's a dog and pony show. He's going to release political prisoners to show how everything's free and fair, and therefore, when they have the rigged-ass election that he just won, it'll be genuinely accepted because, look, I just released political prisoners. What are you talking about? Everything's free and fair here. But to answer your question, only here for the Plaidcast, Lukashenko is a puppet of Putin on very short strings. And in fact, he's on Putin's fourth and pinky finger on his left, on Putin's left hand. He's a marionette that's not even worthy of a whole hand for Putin. He's a pinky finger of Putin puppet. He has no wiggle room. If he does anything Putin does not like, Putin will either have him assassinated outright or Putin will just invade Belarus. Although I don't think he'll do that because it's nice to have Belarus as a fake sovereign state that has a voice at the United Nations. Because Belarus is a fake state. It does not have sovereignty. It does not speak its own mind. It has no foreign policy. Putin controls their foreign policy. That's not a sovereign state. So you have to understand that Putin might want to take over all of Eastern Europe again. But just like the commies did after World War II, they won't take it over and absorb it. They'll take it over and say, no, Poland, you're still a sovereign state. And Czechoslovakia, you're a sovereign state. And Albania, you're a sovereign state. But we actually control you. But it makes it look like we have this union because all of us are together and we have 10 votes in the United Nations versus us just taking you over outright and absorbing you, and then it's just one big USSR. So there's reasons why Putin doesn't take over Belarus, but make no bones around it. Belarus is not an independent state anymore. It's a joke. It's a total joke. So sorry, Lukashenko, but hopefully years 30 to 35 in power will treat you well because you will die in office, a broken, forgotten idiot that nobody cares about who has no real power at all. But it sounds like fun being in the palace, I guess. I'm sorry, did that sound too real? I got a first-time chatter from Jubs88 who says, "What are some of your favorite cheap under 15 bottles of wine?" I have a terrible memory for that, but I'd say anything in Kroger is under 15, and you'll do fine there. And I'm not a snob. I just don't drink a lot of under $15 bottles of wine because I get them cheap because I get wholesale costs because we own a bar.
I said that rosé, the Luff.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of bottles I drink that are under 15. I don't know them by name because I drink something different every day. So I don't have any standards. I don't really have any go-tos that I frequent on a regular basis. Besides certain champagnes or certain Chiantis, but I don't even do those regularly. None of those are under 15. So there's a lot out there. There's more better cheap wines than ever before. I just don't know any off the top of my head because there's just so many of them. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you. But thank you for your first-time chatter, Jubs. First-time chatter from Squilliam, who just says, up, pointing up to that comment. Thank you for both of your first-time chatters about cheap wines. I make fun of Kroger wines, but as beginners with not a lot of money, I'm not going to tell you not to go get Kroger wine. So let price be your guide and actually go up to the vintage cellar as well. Ask people at the vintage cellar what their best inexpensive wines are. They'll be honest. Ask for a guy named Randall. Be like, Randall, I'm a college student on a college budget. What's the highest quality wine I can get for under 15? He'll tell you. And they often get what we call closeout specials that they'll have some pretty intriguing or at least interesting wines that are very cheap. So go up to the vintage cellar and they'll hook you up. Jmar 3806 says, I heard Aldi has some good cheap wines, but I haven't tried any yet. Maybe experiment there. Yeah, I haven't not even seen the wine department at Aldi, so I need to get up there. Platt Katie. Oh, God, Titan says that was sick. I'm not even sure what you're referencing. Callisto Malfoy back in the house with the double Putin head at 9:09. Sorry, I'm exactly 30 minutes behind now. I'm never going to catch up. Welcome back, Callisto Malfoy. And as always, give it back, Malfoy. Let's see. Olgo says, Oh God Titan says, what time's the podcast? I think we said about 8. Jamar says you should do free tasting at Wine Lab. Never going to happen, but thank you, Jamar. Dale McCormick says, I agree. You should open up some Mouton for free tasting. Dale McCormick knows his wines. Or Screaming Eagle. Wow, Dale really knows his wines. First time chatter from Balin Elron. Red wine or white wine? Yes. Depends on the day, the season, the time, the weather, the food, and the company. But yes, it's either red wine or white wine. Epelin says the Colombian president Petro is from a left-wing party and isn't as pro-U.S. as his predecessors. Do you think that played a factor in the bitch slap? Yes. It only played a factor in that he attempted to stand up to the United States / Trump. His predecessors likely would not have even attempted to stand up to the United States or Trump. But I think even if it was a conservative Republican leader of Colombia, had they done the same thing, they would have got the same bitch slap that Petro did. Trump and his administration are trying to make a point, and that point is anyone who dares defy us will be punished. That is, to me, the very obvious point. I'm not trying to read into it. I'm not trying to be political. It seems pretty obvious that's what they're going for. And again, it's new. No one's ever done that before. It's intriguing. It's interesting. Will it work? We shall find out. Jump says, I do love champagnes and sparkling wines, reasonably priced suggestions.
I gave some.
Oh, you gave some. Okay. So Katie already hooked you up.
Cava, some Cremant.
Cava, always go for Cava. Cremant. Anything that's called Cremant is champagne style. Did you already mention that, Katie?
Yeah.
So for the wine class people, we can get to this if we get to a whole lecture on sparkling wine. Anytime you see a wine from France and it's called something Cremant. Or
Cremant.
Cremant de something. Cremant de Burgundy. Cremant de Loire. Cremant de Rhone. That is saying champagne-style wine from Bordeaux. Champagne-style wine from Rhone. And champagne-style means they follow the exact production methods of true champagne. However, they're not from Champagne. And so you can get Cremants, and that's Cremant. You can get Cremants from all over France for wildly cheaper, but they're champagne-style wines, and most of them are really quite good. First-time chatter from Baller Boy 69, who says, what are some good wines to start off with for a beginner? Again, there's so many wines. If you've never drank any wine at all, you start with whites. You can start with sweet wines, by the way. Most people start with something sweet, and then they get a little bored, and they gravitate towards some white wines, simple white wines like Pinot Grigio or 10 other varieties I can suggest. And then you might try some more bolder Chardonnays and some other interesting whites. And then you're going to try some rosé wines, and those are the pink wines. They're really approachable and easy. And then you're going to try some light red wines, and then you're going to get into big red wines. And that's just the way your palate will progress in life. So, again, vintage cellar for the free tastings, and just bop around and see what your palate likes at this time. Because I don't know where your palate's starting from, so I can't give you an exact prediction of what to try first. Try a little bit of everything at free tastings, and that will help you figure out what you like in terms of what you're going to go buy. I'm almost caught up, right? I am. So Plaid Katie, Jump, Plaid Katie, Jump. 1 of 15 Elvises says Pinot Noir, just a $10 Woodbridge from Kroger. Not as good as their Cabernet Sauvignon, but really solid hits of dark chocolate in there especially. It feels really approachable for a dry red. Boom! Nice job, Elvises. That's a good description. You're well on your way into an A into this wine class. Damn, that's professional right there. First time chatter from Call Me JP. I will, JP. Says, how were the P5 chosen for the UN Security Council? Oh, hold on, Call Me JP. You're going to get a whole lecture on that. But the quick answer is the P5, the permanent 5, were the 5 victorious powers after World War II who set up the United Nations and who set up this UN Security Council, and they got to be the permanents. Most of them also were nuclear powers at the time, atomic and then nuclear powers. So the winners of World War II, the United States, France, UK. I should take. Let me take that statement back. The winners and atomic powers of World War II. The United States, France, UK, Russia, the USSR, which was an ally of ours during World War II. People keep forgetting that. And eventually China. China was a little late to the game, and there's a backstory to that because it wasn't really China who was the permanent one. It was Taiwan, and that's because Taiwan was a friend of ours at the time. But eventually the seat reverted to actual China. So what you have is all 5 of the P5 are nuclear declared powers. However, there are other nuclear declared powers who were not there, and it just happened to be that these are the 5 that were well on the way to atomic/nuclear powers and the winners of World War II. Again, that's what makes it ironic, is because now the United States and Russia hate each other, but they were on the same side at the end of World War II, so the creation of the Security Council, everybody was in agreement at the time. It didn't last long, but it lasted long enough to have the P5 that we have today. Does that make sense? That was the short answer. You're going to get a longer one in a whole lecture. Let's see. St. Hilaire, first time. Good question, first time chatter. Call me JP. And back to finish this off from Nate Damon. Says, will we ever see China pull support from North Korea, or will they continue bankrolling them to serve as a buffer from South Korea and the West? The latter. You got it, Nate. Why would China ever give up that buffer zone? I liken North Korea as a joker, a wild card in the deck. And China controls that wild card. And so anytime China is playing poker with any other world power, they've got a wild card in their hand, and that's North Korea. Why would you ever give up a wild card? There's no there's no risk. I mean, there's no negatives of giving up of supporting North Korea. It's a wild card. They can use it any time for various reasons. So it's only gain and no pain to have North Korea as an ally. I say that tongue in cheek. There is some pain, but because North Korea is crazy and China has to pay the money, and North Korea could do something crazy like start a nuclear war that would pull China in accidentally too. So there is some risk, but right now the benefit of having a wild card North Korea is way more beneficial to China than it is a detriment. So they're not going to give it up anytime soon. First time chatter from Mr. Swag50, good screen name. Says, hi, Professor. I just want to say hello. I'm taking a World Reasons class right now. Bam! 9:35 and all caught up. Thank you for your first time chatter, Mr. Swag50. That's a great way to end because you didn't even ask me a question. You just made a comment. Thank you for that. Thank you all for tuning in to the online office hour. This has been the funnest, bestest online office hour I've had for in memory. Because here it is, almost 2 hours later, and I'm just now catching up with really great questions, really great input from both classes on a variety of topics. This is what education is all about, my friends. I'm going to miss this. But you're going to join me online when I just start doing it everywhere else on planet Earth, outside of the Virginia Tech system. If it comes to that, my friends. However, thank you all for tuning in. I am going to do my darndest to have a podcast about Greenland tomorrow night, and it may only be 15 or 20 minutes, because if I'm not answering questions, it can be tight or tighter. And so look for that tomorrow, 30 minutes tops if I can pull it off. If not, I'll try to do it on Thursday, but I'm getting ready to leave the country, so it's either tomorrow or bust. I'll try to make that happen tomorrow. And thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for such great feedback, great comments. Thank you for all your support, your words of encouragement, and your compliments towards the classes and the content and me personally. I really appreciate it. I hope to do a lot more of this in the future. And for now, you all have a great night. If I don't see you tomorrow, have a great week. And as always, party on, unless I see you tomorrow. And then it's Tuesday night party with a Greenland grab. But for now, party on. Have a great night. And now go relax.